Hi, everybody. It's Ms. Fennell, and Mr. Douglas is here too. He's actually the one that created this form. But welcome back to week 3 of distance learning for 7th grade science. So really quick directions today. We have a website that we're going to have you visit. I'll show you that here in just one second. And then you're going to go to the website. You're going to read information and do activity on the website. And then you're going to come back to the Google form here and answer questions. So there's a lot of different ways you can do this. Number one way you could do this is just to scroll through the questions on the form and kind of take note of what it's asking you. Option number one for this today is you could just go through here and do random answers. If you do that, there's 30 points to this. We're probably going to see a score from you of like 5 out of 30, 10 out of 30. If you do that, we're not going to put a grade in the grade book for you if you end up with a super low score like that. And on this one, I don't think we're going to do redos. You can't do redos because this is stuff, if you go to the website and you do the activity, you should get 100% on it. So you can either, after I show you what this is, you can go on your own and do the activity on your own. The second option is I'm going to read through the activity right now. So you can just follow along this video and then go in and click your answers that way too. So there's a couple different ways you can do it. So basically what we want to introduce you to this week is the first week of distance learning, we did mitosis. And what we want you to know about that is mitosis is cell division. It's living things making more of themselves by making more of their cells. And so that's what cell division is. Last week, we looked at planarian worms, and planarian worms, of course, are able to make more of themselves just by attaching their tail to a rock and swimming away and tearing themselves in half. By the way, we loved your stories. We had a great time reading them. Some of you are so creative. It was so fun to read your stories. So this week, we're going to get into the two kinds of reproduction that living things can do. So when we think of reproduction, it really is amazing, once again, that living things can make more of themselves. And that's what we call reproduction, that ability to make more of yourself. Turns out, as human beings, we tend to think very tunnel vision, and we tend to think that all living things would reproduce like humans do, where you have a male and you have a female parent and you have the babies, right? It turns out not all living things do it that way. Making more of themselves. Lots of living things can actually make more of themselves in multiple different ways. So say take planarians. They can tear themselves in half and you go from one worm to two worms. And that's what we call asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction simply means one parent reproduction. And then you have sexual reproduction, which is the two-parent reproduction, where you have a reproductive cell from one parent and a reproductive cell from another parent, sperm cell, egg cell. Those two cells come together and makes the new living thing. We're going to get into later on this week some key differences in outcomes between if you have one parent just copying themselves and making more of themselves, that's asexual again, versus sexual, where you have two parents. And don't get too excited that we're talking about sexual reproduction this week. Oak trees do sexual reproduction. And my standard joke on that is, we're not going to say, oh, kids, look outside. Don't look at what those oak trees are doing outside, right? Oak trees do sexual reproduction. In fact, when we talk about sexual reproduction, we're not really going to talk about humans at all because go ask your parents. We'll talk more about plants and how plants actually get reproductive cells to make more of themselves and make seeds and all of that kind of thing. So that's kind of our theme for this week. So basically here we got these two kinds of reproduction. So what we would like you to do, and the link is in the directions here, there's another website that we'd like you to take a look at that's called Learn Genetics at Utah. It's a Utah education thing. And to introduce this idea to you, we have all kinds of different living things. And once again, we tend to think that all living things reproduce like humans, but that's simply not the case. When we look at honeybees, they have some interesting stuff about them. So if you come to this website and you click on the honeybee, it tells you about the honeybee. And you can read a little bit about how honeybees make more of themselves. And then you can click, do they do sexual reproduction? That's two parent. Both types are asexual. And you can actually kind of take a little quiz here. Will it work? Oh, there we go. Usually you can see, like I clicked on this one and it's wrong. This one's wrong. They do actually both types. Honeybees can do sexual, which is 2 parent, and asexual, which is 1 parent. So if you want to go on your own and finish the rest of this, you are welcome to do that. The difficulty a little bit is you kind of have to click back and forth between the 2 sites. I happen to be working on a desktop computer. So if you're working on a computer, it might be a little easier for you. If you're on your phone, you might have to do 2 tabs. But basically what I'm going to do is this first question is about the honeybee. So I'm going to click on the honeybee information here. I am going to read you what it says about honeybees. And then, oops, clicked on the wrong one. And then we'll go back and read the question to you. So if you'd like me to read you the whole thing, keep watching the video. If you want to just go and do it on your own because you think you can do it faster on your own, you are welcome to do that as well. Okay. So that's kind of what I'm going to do. I think this video will be embedded in this form right here, right? So you should be able to kind of watch and scroll, I think is how that works. If you have any trouble, please let us know. This assignment is going to be due at 3 p.m. on Tuesday. I think we'll go 3 p.m. on Tuesday for this one. So you basically have Monday and Tuesday. There will not be a new assignment posted Tuesday. You have 2 days to get this one done. All right. If you want to go on your own, go ahead. At this point, I'm just going to start going in though. So if I click on the honeybees, so it says the queen honeybee mates once to collect all the sperm she will need in her lifetime. Mates once, collects all the sperm she needs in her lifetime. Back at the hive, she uses the sperm to fertilize some eggs while leaving others unfertilized. Fertilized eggs will become females and unfertilized eggs becomes males. One chosen female will be raised as the new queen. So that's kind of interesting about honeybees. So do they do sexual reproduction? That's 2 parent reproduction. 1 parent reproduction, which is asexual, or both. They actually do both because fertilized eggs become females, unfertilized eggs become males. So over here it says unfertilized honeybee eggs become males. Is that true or false? Well, that was right over here. It says unfertilized eggs become males. So pause the video if you need to, scroll down, click the honeybee answer. All right. Next question is about pink salmon. So if I click on the pink salmon over here, by the way, this is the scientific name. I can't even pronounce that. I don't know. Salmon live in the ocean, but they reproduce in freshwater streams. When mature, they migrate upstream to the place where they were born. Many swim great distances, and only the fittest salmon survive the journey. The female digs 1 or more nest holes in the stream bed. As she deposits her eggs, a male covers them with sperm. The salmon die soon after. So we have females laying eggs and males fertilizing them. So is that sexual 2 parent reproduction, both types of reproduction, or asexual reproduction? I can click on them here. It's not asexual. It's not both types. It is sexual reproduction. So if you scroll down to the salmon question here, it says pink salmon reproduce. Is it sexually or asexually? The answer is right here. I hope this is easy enough. I don't know. If you have trouble doing it, please let us know. And please don't say, I don't get it. If you're having trouble, my guess is you're having technical problems with this one. All right. Next question is about a leopard frog. These are frogs that we can actually hear here in Minnesota. Click on the picture here of the leopard frog. I might have to scroll over a little bit here. Here we go. Leopard frogs, breed in ponds or streams. The male calls with his voice to attract a female. He then grips the female tightly, triggering the release of her eggs and his sperm. Tiny tadpoles emerge shortly thereafter. Those that survive go through metamorphosis to become land-dwelling adult frogs. So in this case, do we have 2 parent reproduction, sexual reproduction, both types of reproduction, or asexual reproduction? Asexual is not right. They don't just do 1 parent. Both types is not right. They do 2 parent reproduction. They do sexual. And it says here, the male calls with his voice to attract a female. Those are the frog calls I was telling you about a couple weeks ago, if you've had the chance to get out and look at those. So does he attract a female with camouflage, with a call, or with color? Pause the video, scroll down, and answer that one. All right, next one is about yeast. Believe it or not, the yeast that makes bread dough rise is a unicellular organism, a little one-celled organism. So here we have the yeast. It says baker's yeast is a tiny single-celled fungus that makes bread dough rise and converts the sugars into alcohol. This yeast reproduces by budding. Budding is just, you can see the individual cell here growing, and it grows just a little buddy off the side, which is kind of cool. As the small bud grows, it receives a copy of the parent's nucleus. When the bud pinches off, the new cell is smaller than the parent cell, but genetically identical. So you have one-celled organism here that's literally just growing a copy of itself off the side. Do you think that's sexual reproduction, two parents working here? Is it both kinds, or is it one-parent reproduction? I'm going to click on the answer. Are you ready? Which one do you think it is? It's asexual reproduction is correct. So baker's yeast reproduce blank by budding. Is it sexually, two-parent reproduction, or asexually? Scroll down and click in the right answer. All right, the next one is about bald eagles. Oh, this one, bald eagles, is very interesting. Friday, we're going to do, I'm hoping to do Fun Science Friday, where we can show you more the babies, the eaglets in the bald eagle nest. They're so fun right now. So if I click on the bald eagle on the Utah website here, it says, like most bird species, bald eagles mate for life. The female lays 1 to 3 eggs per year. Both male and female incubate the eggs, hunt for food, and maintain the nest. Their courtship involves elaborate calls and flight displays, including a tandem freefall in which partners lock talons and separate just before hitting the ground. Do you think this is two-parent, both, or one-parent? Of course, they do sexual reproduction. They have two-parent reproduction. Interesting, this is true for a lot of birds. Most bird species, bald eagles mate for life. And again, it's two-parent reproduction. Both the male and the female incubate the eggs. So if we scroll down here, a little hint on this one, 3 of these are correct. So you click the boxes and 3 out of the 4 of them are correct here. Do bald eagles mate for life? Do they reproduce sexually? Do they reproduce asexually? Or do they incubate eggs? And 3 out of the 4 boxes there are correct. All right. So scroll down to the next one here. Pause the video if you need to scroll up and down, or rewind or replay to find answers. All right. Male seahorses carry eggs until they hatch. Is that true or false? So that's our next one we're looking for. Male seahorses carry eggs until they hatch. Oh, I got to find the seahorse on here. I'm looking at this seahorse and it's blue. I wonder if it's really blue. The seahorse is unique among fish. It mates for life with the same partner. And it's the dad who gets pregnant. I love seahorses for this reason. This is awesome. A female deposits her eggs in the male's pouch. The male then carries the eggs for 2 to 4 weeks until they hatch. Muscle contractions help the male give birth to 100 baby seahorses. So true or false here? By the way, this is sexual reproduction. This is two parents, because you have the male and the female. That's two parent. Male seahorses carry the eggs until they hatch. Is that true or false? All right, click your answer there. Pause the video. There we go. Next one is about a brittle sea star. These are kind of like starfish, but a little different. A brittle sea star only reproduces asexually. Is that true or false? So the question here is do they just reproduce using one-parent reproduction, or can they do both one and two-parent reproduction? All right. So clicking on the brittle star, it says there are a couple thousand different species of brittle stars. Again, basically a starfish, but a little different. At certain times of the year, male and female stars release sperm and eggs into the ocean, but they can reproduce at other times too. They simply split in half and grow new body parts. This ability to regenerate can also help a brittle sea star escape a predator. So if predators coming after them, they can lose a leg and they just can regrow a leg. If the predator eats half of them, they can regrow the other half of their body. They can also, if they get broken, they can just regrow the other half. So the question was, a brittle sea star reproduces only asexually, but then they're talking about males and females here. So sexual reproduction, asexual reproduction by itself is not right. Both kinds of reproduction. They have males and females, And they can do the regeneration like the planarian worms. So a brittle sea star reproduces only asexually. Is that true or false? All right, next one. Sunflowers. This next one is about sunflowers. Sunflower pollen is blank. Is it nectar or sperm? Let's read to find out. All right. Sunflowers. Like other flowering plants, the sunflower relies on insects for reproduction. We'll talk more about this later in the week. Bees searching for nectar inadvertently pick up pollen and spread it from flower to flower. When sperm-filled pollen grains contact the stigma, they grow. That's not right. They grow in a pollen tube. They go down a pollen tube that reaches the ovary. Sperm travel down the tube to fertilize an egg. The head of a single sunflower contains many hundreds of tiny flowers that each produce a seed. So sunflower pollen is actually sperm. It's plant, male plant, it contains on the inside of it male plant reproductive cells. All right. So by the way, this is how plants do two-parent reproduction. They have flowers. The flowers produce eggs, that's the female reproductive cell, and pollen, which contains sperm, the male reproductive cell. All right. Our next question is about monarchs. Monarch butterflies blank, and this is another select all that apply. Do they mate in the spring? Do they reproduce asexually, one parent? Do they reproduce sexually? That's two parents. Oh, I'm giving away answers here. Oh my gosh. If you were paying attention, you could rewind and see. Oh my gosh. I clicked the wrong thing. Why am I seeing answers? Okay. It's still there. Oh my gosh. So here's your answers. By the way, if you watch the video, you just got a bonus. Got free answers. You're welcome. If you get this question wrong, I'm just saying you didn't watch the video. All three things are true. Monarch butterflies mate in the spring. They do two-parent reproduction and they lay eggs. So that's true. I don't know how I got the answers to click up. I don't know. I don't know what I did, but the answers aren't going away. All right. Next one is about a kind of bacteria. How do Salmonella reproduce? Salmonella are this kind of bacteria. If I go over here and click on the Salmonella picture, it says Salmonella is a bacteria that causes food poisoning. Usually found in poultry products, and if you have a lizard or a reptile, a lizard, which is a reptile, or a snake, or amphibians, they often have salmonella in their poop, so you gotta be careful. In the small intestine, a single salmonella cell divides in two, rapidly producing many copies of itself. The microscopic bacteria invade our cells, and our immune system responds, and we experience fever, nausea, and diarrhea. It's not pretty, folks. So bacteria, basically, they just do one parent reproduction. They just split in half. Now they got two of them. So they are doing just cell division. So how do Salmonella reproduce? They do not have egg and sperm cells because they're one-celled organisms. They simply divide. That's all they do. So they only do asexual reproduction. And this is how it works with all bacteria. Bacteria do have a cool thing that they can do, though, is they have little pieces of DNA that they can share with other bacteria. It's called a plasmid. So even though they can't do two-parent reproduction, they can share DNA, they can share plasmids with other living things and with other bacteria, and they can share genes that way. And this is why if you get one bacteria that is resistant to antibiotics, they can share that gene with other bacteria and make other bacteria around them resistant to that antibiotic. So more about bacteria genetics later. All right, giant amoebas. Amoebas are also one-celled organisms. Giant amoebas reproduce only asexually. Let me see. I got to find the amoeba here. Where's the amoeba? Where's the amoeba? There it is right there. Weird looking amoeba. Single-celled amoebas live in ponds and wet soil. To reproduce, they copy their DNA. Then the cell constricts in the middle and pinches apart. The two amoeba are exactly copies of each other. When conditions are right, amoeba divide every 24 hours. So do they do two-parent reproduction? Nope, they don't. Do they do both kinds of reproduction? Nope, they don't. Do they reproduce asexually? Ding, 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 ding. Yep. They only do one-parent reproduction. Again, they're just doing cell division. One-celled organism does cell division. That's how they make more of themselves. All right, next one, the giant redwood tree. Coast redwood blank. Do they reproduce asexually, sexually, bear cones, or do they sprout? Let's read about them. Redwood trees are the tallest and largest trees in the world. On my bucket list, I want to go out to the West Coast someday and see these trees that are so big they have tunnels, you can drive through them, actually. Anybody seen that? All right. Like other conifers, the trees bear male and female cones that rely on the wind for pollination. New trees also sprout from large, shallow roots, generating a circle of trees identical to the parent. So this is the case with a lot of trees. A lot of trees, like the conifers, it's kind of a pine tree, right? So they have the cones. So they're reproducing sexually with the cones, with their reproductive cells, egg cells, and sperm cells. Then they can also do this really cool thing where their roots grow and send up shoots. And so you'll have the tree and then you'll have a shoot nearby. And there's lots of trees that do that this way. So they do sexual reproduction with the cones. They do asexual reproduction with the shoots. So really the answer to them is they do both kinds of reproduction. So your choices here, do they reproduce asexually? Yep, by doing shoots. Do they reproduce sexually? Yep, by using their pine cones. Do they bear cones? Yep, they do. Do they sprout? Yep. So here we actually could check all 4 boxes. So all 4 boxes are right. All right, the next one, Volvox. Oh, if we were at school, we would do a microscope lab. If we have time, I don't know, I would love to post more about protists. Protists are fun little one-celled organisms that live in the water. So Volvox, and it's kind of cool. They have these circles with these little babies inside that they release, which is kind of cool. Volvox is an algae that only reproduces sexually. True or false? Do they have 2-parent reproduction? They're a little kind of algae. How do they do this? A Volvox is a microscopic green algae that lives in pond water. Thousands of individual cells group together to form a hollow sphere called a colony. The spheres inside the colony are miniature clones of the parent. When they grow large enough, the parent colony falls apart and releases the spheres into the water. So the spheres inside are miniature clones. So that what that tells us is they do not do 2-parent reproduction. They do not do both kinds of reproduction. They only do asexual reproduction. So over here it says Volvox is an algae that only reproduces sexually. That's not true. They make little clones. I don't know if you can see in this picture. They make little reproductive copies of themselves, and then these little babies leave the parent and become their own little Volvox. Cute little baby Volvoxes, aren't they cute? So yeah, they actually only reproduce asexually. So this one is false. Giving some answers away here. All right, what mating behavior is displayed by sand scorpions? Do they call, do they dance, or do they do camouflage? I'm getting a mental picture here. Have you ever heard the call of a sand scorpion? I'm picturing a sand scorpion dancing. Or do they do camouflage? Let's click on the sand scorpion here. So the sand scorpions dance together for several hours. When the male finds a good place to deposit a packet of sperm, he puts the female on top of it. When the dance is over, a female will occasionally sting her partner and make him her next meal. So guys, if you ever get rejected by the ladies, at least you're not a sand scorpion and your mate won't eat you. Hopefully, so that's good. So the sand scorpions dance, and that's their kind of mating behavior that they display. By the way, this is sexual reproduction. They can only do 2-parent reproduction. And you have the sand scorpion dance. I want to Google that now and look up what a sand scorpion dance looks like. All right, next question. How many more do we have left here? Oh my goodness. All right, we're almost done. We're getting there. All right. Flatback sea turtles carry their babies for 2 months and then give live birth. Is that true or false? Do they carry their babies for 2 months? Okay. The flatback sea turtle lives off the coast of Australia. After mating at sea, the female returns to the same beach where she was born decades earlier. She lays her eggs at night and buries them in the sand, hiding them from predators. 2 months later, more than 50 baby sea turtles emerge from the nest and head for the ocean. Does she carry her babies for 2 months and then give birth? No, that would be false. She lays eggs, and they are only capable of 2-parent reproduction, males and females, and having babies hatch out of eggs. So they do not give live birth. This is false. All right. Next one is about grizzly bears. Oh my. Select all that apply again. Do they reproduce asexually, sexually, or do they give birth? Select all that apply. Let's read about grizzly bears. Grizzly bears mate during early summer. The male deposits his sperm inside the female to fertilize her eggs, but the eggs don't develop until the female begins hibernation. The mother will give birth to between 1 and 4 cubs, and she won't reproduce again till the cubs leave her side about 3 years later. Bear cubs are so cute. So they definitely do sexual reproduction. They do not do asexual reproduction, and they don't do both. They only do sexually. So over here, do they reproduce asexually? Nope. Although it'd be funny if a grizzly bear could get cut in half and regrow into 2 bears. I don't know. They do reproduce sexually and they do give birth. So you should check those 2 boxes at the bottom. All right. Earthworms are some of my favorite little creatures. Although an earthworm has both male and female reproductive parts, they are hermaphrodites again. There is an exchange of blank between 2 worms in order to reproduce. Oh, these are fascinating. I love little earthworms. All right. The common earthworm has both male and female reproductive parts. To reproduce, 2 worms come together to exchange sperm. Each worm deposits its own eggs and the donated sperm into a gooey cocoon that it leaves in the soil. Baby worms emerge a few weeks later. So basically, the worms line up with each other. They both have eggs and sperm, but they can't fertilize their own eggs with their own sperm. So they have to exchange sperm with the other earthworm. And then they use the other earthworm sperm to fertilize their eggs, and they lay this little egg pouch. And that's how earthworms reproduce. So they are not like planarians. If you cut an earthworm in half, you just have a dead earthworm. They cannot do 1-parent reproduction. They don't do both. They only can do 2-parent reproduction. So what are they exchanging? They both keep their own eggs. So that's not right. They exchange sperm with the other worm that's in the soil. Crazy. All right. Whiptail lizards are able to reproduce without a blank. Lizards and reptiles in general, there's some species that have some really interesting modes of reproduction. Of course, many of them can regrow tails and that sort of thing. But this one is particularly interesting. This all-female whiptail species is able to reproduce without a male to fertilize her eggs. It's called parthenogenesis. She can actually... Anyway, females take turns playing male during courtship and mating. After a false mating, that's crazy, the female from the mating pair will lay eggs and the daughters are identical to their mom. There is no males in this species. These are only females. They pretend to mate, but they don't really. And then, so they mate, but they're not exchanging reproductive cells with the other lizard. It's crazy. They can't do both types. They can't do sexual reproduction. They do asexual reproduction. The female lays her own eggs, and they're all clones of each other, which is crazy. But yeah, they're a lizard, and the whole species is female, no males. So whiptail lizards are able to reproduce without a male. There's no males in this species. It's crazy. All right. Strawberries. Garden strawberries do not reproduce. Is that true or false? Strawberries are really interesting. Let me scroll over to the strawberries here. The garden strawberry plant grows modified stems called runners. Along the runners, tiny new strawberry plants take root. Each new plant is identical to the parent. Insect pollinators also visit strawberry flowers. Pollen from one flower joins the egg of another flower to form the seeds that cover the strawberry fruit. Strawberries are also the only fruit with their seeds on the outside, which is kind of cool. So strawberry plants actually do both. They send out runners. So if you start a strawberry patch and you put a strawberry plant in the middle of it, you leave it for a little while, it will send out stems called runners, and then the runners actually put down roots and become more plants. Now that's 1-parent reproduction. All those plants are genetically identical to the original. On the outside of the strawberry, they also will develop seeds, and those are formed using 2-parent reproduction. So they actually do both, 1-parent and 2-parent. So garden strawberries do not reproduce. That's false. They can actually reproduce 2 different ways. All right. Male red kangaroos carry their young in their pouch. Is that true or false? Are they like seahorses? Do the kangaroos carry males in their pouch? All right. Red kangaroos can leap as far as 12 feet in one jump. When it's mating time, males box each other with their powerful jumping legs. The winning male deposits his sperm in the female where the egg is fertilized. After only 33 days, the undeveloped young is born. Safely tucked away in the mom's pouch, it will continue to grow for another 7 months. So do the male kangaroos carry the young? That is false. It is the females, and kangaroos only can do the two-parent reproduction, sexual reproduction. All right. We're getting to the end. We're getting to the end. Yay! Saguaro Cactus. We're almost done. This is kind of a fun one. The saguaro is a tree-like cactus that grows over 50 feet tall in desert areas in North America. The cactus flowers in the spring and relies mainly on bats for pollination. The flowers produce fleshy fruit filled with thousands of seeds, each one genetically unique. So are these cactuses, saguaro cactus seeds, are all the same? That's false. Just told us over here that they were each genetically unique. They can't do asexual reproduction. They can only do two-parent reproduction, and their flowers, again, are going to be used to form reproductive cells. Pollen from one fertilizes eggs from another, and so this is another plant that does sexual or two-parent reproduction. All right. Last question. Hopefully you know this isn't on here, is it? Mr. Douglas wrote this. I think you did a good job. I think this is kind of fun to look at all these different ones. Humans blank reproduce sexually or asexually. I think it would be hilarious if humans could do one-parent reproduction. If we reproduce like yeast, where we just grow an identical twin, our little bud off of the side, wouldn't that be crazy? Humans, of course, only can do two-parent reproduction, so humans reproduce sexually. All right. This video got a little long. That's why we're giving you 2 days. This took basically, 30-ish, 40-ish minutes for me to go through all of these answers. But hopefully, again, you kind of saw some examples of both one-parent and two-parent reproduction. Hopefully, you can submit your score and get 100%. And again, this is good for Monday and Tuesday. You'll get your next new assignment on Wednesday. Have a great week. Bye.